Welcome to Tuesday, August 15th, 2023, your Day Weather Podcast, brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. Well, there's a warm-up coming after record low temperatures yesterday morning in many locations: Casper, Cheyenne, Laramie, Torrington, Douglas, many areas of western Nebraska's Panhandle area. We saw frost in some areas. Garrett, Wyoming coming in at 30 degrees. A lot of 30s reported yesterday morning. But summer's not over. It's going to have a little bit of a resurgence as temperatures are going to be warming up over the course of the next few days. And we also will continue with the drier trend. So we're not going to have these billowing thunderheads across the region here for a few days. Thunderstorms taking a break, maybe one of the longer break of thunderstorms we've seen for a while. But as high pressure goes a little bit more to the east later this week and into the weekend, that's going to open the door to some moisture from the south and west. And that's going to allow some subtropical moisture to move in, getting thunderstorms going again. But also, and we're going to spend some time with this, the eastern Pacific is really starting to get very active with tropical storm and hurricane activity. And sometimes, especially in the month of August, historically, if conditions are right, sometimes that subtropical moisture from the remnants of tropical storms and hurricanes can sometimes come into the western United States. And we actually see at least the possibility. It's on the table in the longer term that moisture could come into the west and southwest, especially the southwest U.S. We'll take a look at that. Also, later today, we're going to send out and update our long-range forecast for the winter season. So wherever you're checking out the Day Weather Podcast, especially the YouTube channel, that's probably the where to go later today. And we'll go into an in-depth discussion on what we think the winter season is going to be like. Another great shot from Wayne. That was the first picture as well. This is another one from northeastern Wyoming this weekend with those heavy thunderstorms that came in with that strong cold front. Speaking of that cold front, a heavy frost in the northern Bighorn Mountains. Thanks, Matt, for sending that in. A lot of reports of frost in the higher valleys and the high mountains of the region behind that unusually strong Canadian cold front that rolled through on Sunday. Boy, and you can really see the impacts of that front on the water vapor imagery this morning. Look at that strong delineation between the dry, stable air and then the low. You can see the spin in the air going into the Great Lakes. That will cause heavy thunderstorm activity in the Great Lakes and northeastern United States as it moves on through. And you can see that there's a little bit of moisture coming up in the southwestern United States and a little bit of moisture back here, but a lot of dry air will keep thunderstorm activity at a minimum east of the divide. Now, we'll get to this in a minute, but you see all of these colors right here? A lot of tropical activity getting going in the eastern Pacific. As that matures and gets going, it could play a large role in our weather going forward. So here we are at 500 millibars this morning, the low in the Great Lakes. You can see the high is rebuilding, hence the heat. Temperatures will warm up as that high bulges northward, bringing that warmer air around. There you can see part of that tropical activity there. Going forward with thunderstorm activity today, you can see the low will cause a lot of severe weather today along the East Coast. That trough coming out of the Great Lakes, dragging that cold front through, will make for some active weather. So that could cause airport delays there. A large part of the nation's midsection, including a lot of the Rockies east of the divide, nothing, but where that subtropical moisture is, there's going to be general, widely scattered garden variety thunderstorm activity. Temperature-wise, you can see that cool air behind the front today. This is for noon today. The temperature anomaly showing the middle part of the country cool with that front, but warming up along the west coast. And then as we step forward, this is today, this is tomorrow, and this is Thursday. So you can see the heat all across the west here, but we continue to have these little shots of Canadian air going into the northern plains and the Great Lakes, keeping those August temperatures really at bay here towards the middle of the month, while the west becomes under the influence of this bulging high pressure ridge. But over time, what will happen is that high pressure ridge is going to want to migrate back to the east. Until then, though, this is through Thursday. You can see a large part of the west and central United States, just nothing going on. Here's your garden variety thunderstorm activity. in that monsoonal moisture, weak monsoonal moisture across the southwestern United States. The heavier moisture you can see is down here. So as we look ahead, by this weekend, by Saturday, the high pressure ridge goes back to Oklahoma. Now remember, when we saw this eastward shift last time, we got very active with that monsoon moisture flow coming back. This is going to open the door again to the deeper subtropical moisture coming on up. Now, you're going to see this and notice this right here. This is likely going to be a hurricane forming off the Yucatan. We also have this trough off the coast of California. So we have upper level winds like that. We have upper level winds like this. The question is, as this hurricane drifts around the Pacific, it will likely be drifting this direction, and it will eventually dissipate. But if things work out correctly, the remnants of this hurricane could get drawn into the western United States. And that subtropical moisture around the ring of the high basically is like adding fuel to the fire. It's going to bring naturally moisture up. But if you throw in the remnants of a tropical storm or a hurricane, well, then all of a sudden you've got something very interesting going on. So the 7-day outlook in the Pacific, we've got Greg here, Fernanda right here now. This is the maker right here that I think is probably going to play a role, as it will likely become a hurricane and then go up and be here by late in the weekend and into next week. The Atlantic is all of a sudden getting more active. It's been a very quiet hurricane season so far. That's changing here in the coming weeks. Now, the best way to show you what is likely going to transpire is by showing you the precipitable water. The brown showing the areas where the air is really dry, and the blue and the green showing you where the moisture is deeper. And you can see the hurricane forming right here, and you see the connection the hurricane has with the subtropical moisture going around the high over the next 10 days. Now we're going to go through and loop this again. I want you to keep an eye down here in South Texas as well later on. But you can see there's subtropical moisture going around, the brown with the high dominating the Midwest. Watch here. Now watch what happens across the Gulf of Mexico. We could very well next week have a Gulf of Mexico tropical storm or hurricane right here, and that moisture could get directed northwest into New Mexico and the southern areas of the United States. So we could have a Gulf of Mexico influence and an Eastern Pacific influence. The end result will be an uptick, if this comes together, of thunderstorm activity. So this is for Friday. We can see that we've got ourselves a hurricane forming right here off the Yucatan by Friday. So here's Mexico, and you can see it's forming there, and then by next Monday, it moves up to the west coast of Mexico. We've got another one forming here, and here's the possible Gulf of Mexico. You can notice that the upper level winds with the wind barbs here are going to be directing these systems like this, kind of converging in the northwest Mexico. Then this is by next Tuesday night into Wednesday, possibly somewhere around the coast of Texas. Don't know. You got to take this with a grain of salt. It could be up here. It could be down here, but it is going to be a system that's going to be coming our way, and we've got these Eastern Pacific tropical systems. So if we compare what the long-range modeling is showing over the next 10 days, this is over the next 240 hours, we are seeing a trend here where deeper moisture could come in along and west of the Continental Divide and then all the way back into the Great Basin states. Now, the models are going to differ, and I will tell you that sometimes what will happen is that the models see the potential for this moisture to come into the southwestern United States, but if those hurricanes curve enough to the west, back out into the central Pacific, they kind of miss their opportunity to come into the western U.S. So this is not a slam dunk, this is going to happen. But the scenario is quite intriguing. The three major model suites, here is the Canadian, here is the European, and here is the GFS model. They're all kind of saying the same thing, but if you notice, the GFS model right here actually brings very heavy rain into southern areas of California and Nevada. It's more westward with the axis, while the European curves things more around like this, and the Canadian is kind of a hybrid between the two. So this bears very close watching, as we go into the weekend and into next week to see if this deeper subtropical moisture comes into the region. Have yourself a very good Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.